What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. Fellas, basketball season is right around the corner. I mean, October 15th is hit. High school basketball, that's the official first day of practice. It's here. This past Saturday, we had Kentucky basketball have Big Blue Madness, which is their version of Meet the Team. So let's get into that a little bit. Just a couple highlights here. I think the first things first is just the amount of the fan turnout, as always. 20,000 fans come into Rupp Arena, and it's like that every single year. We can elaborate on that a little bit more. Some of the, I guess, other big things was for the men's part. I didn't get to see the girls' part, so I can't really say anything about it. When I walked in, I came in about 20 minutes later, and the men's was about to start. But the introductions, Jasper Johnson had a pretty cool introduction. This 6'7". Cody, know anything about this 6'7" stuff? I don't understand it at all.
We're sitting at the dinner table Sunday after church. Eli and Alex look at me and they said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's next? And I said 6, 7. They said 6, 7. And I said, eat your dinner.
Yeah,
This nonsense.
Shut up and eat your dinner.
I don't know this nonsense. This is
yeah.
go sit at the kids' table.
When I was teaching, that was a big thing. And I got to the point where I was telling my kids, like, they would get a mark if they said it, like, because it was over and over and over. And, like, it was just like, what are we doing? Like, what is it? And apparently there's no meaning, is what from my understanding, there's no meaning at all. Like, you can't even use it in a spot because it's just 6, 7. And I don't understand it. But anyways, let's go on to another. So then you had another big highlight introduction was Trent Noah's You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive. Ends up bringing out one of Kentucky's own, Jordan Smith, singing it. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I guess the best introduction of all, other than those two with Mark Pope along with that, was pretty cool, was John Wall. I had a feeling that he was going to make an appearance. I don't know why, but I thought that was really clever to bring him back, because that's kind of where that ignited Big Blue Madness. Then you had Colin Chandler ends up winning the dunk contest, and then Trent Noah, no surprise there, lights up the 3-point contest after trying Andrea Jelovic, however you say it, AJ, but I was going to try it. They both tied to move on to the finals. And then, I think it was a great overall night. It's hard to really get a basis of what, maybe more so the blue-white game you can see, but I mean, it was just a lot of drills. But Mason, what are some of the key takeaways from that you would like to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, I mean, first thing you kind of mentioned, the fan turnout, which that's part of what makes Kentucky so great, right? Our fan base, the tradition we have. I mean, it's a glorified practice, is what it is, and we have 20,000 people showing up there, going crazy over it, spending hundreds of dollars on tickets to watch these guys kind of come out and get a first look at these guys in person. So I mean, it's obviously a cool experience. And then, like you said, bringing Jaw Wall back. I mean, I love that. You mentioned, he was such a fundamental part of kind of bringing Kentucky basketball back, right? Giving us that swagger again, putting us back on top of that podium, putting us back in the national spotlight, bringing us back to what Kentucky basketball truly is. And I thought it was cool for him to be there, cool for him to say, hey, I love Coach Cal, but I also love the University of Kentucky. I want to be here. I support both of them. The fans, they've always given me love, and I just love being here. So I thought that was really cool to have him back. He's loved by so many fans, and I think a lot of people really appreciated that. So shout out to Mark Pope, shout out to John Wall, everybody who was involved in doing that. I think from this, it's kind of hard to really get a read on, players and things like that because they're just out there. It's kind of like an all-star game, right? Out there just running around, dunking the ball, shooting threes. So not really a whole lot of takeaways from the personnel and what I saw from people, but obviously cool event. Got me super excited for basketball season. We got a big scrimmage coming up. We can talk a little bit more about that here in a minute if you want, but just really excited to see what this team can do. I think there's a lot of expectations and a lot of hype around this team right now.
Go more some the highlights for you after looking
Yeah,
back at Big Blue
I
Madness.
just like the it's been a while since the one thing about the Cal era that we didn't get to, except for a few players, you didn't really get to have that excitement of one of your like favorite players coming back, right? Because a lot of the favorite guys that we loved the most, you had a few, like you had Tyler Ulis come back for a second year, and you had Oscar Sheboy come back for a second year, so you got to experience it a little bit. Some fan favorites, but Otega Oweh got a big fan, round of applause and people going crazy for him. He became a fan favorite last year. Obviously, Trent Noah, being a homegrown boy and the Never Leave Harlan Alive. Right, that Colin Chandler, those type of guys, like seeing that excitement of the returning, and then John Wall, and like obviously Mark Pope is a former national champion, and I think it just brought a very good like old school, like, yes, we're back, but you're just bringing in all this like a lot of love for UK. And look, it doesn't hurt anything that our football team is currently downhill. So I mean, anytime this is like the first real basketball thing that happens, and it just really gets you that sense of, okay, look, I know football's been rough on us, but we can make
right
it.
around the corner.
We're right around the corner. We can make it. We can survive. So, I mean, that's how I take away. I mean, the Big Blue Madness, I really enjoyed this one. I kind of got bored a little bit watching the last couple. It just become one of those things where I didn't look forward to it as much, but I really enjoyed this one. I'm like you, like those hype videos. You give me a good song and a slow, like some highlight videos and some old time stuff like that. Like I'm all in. I'm invested. I'm all in.
I can get it. I mean, I can sing if you want me to. Speaking of, he's talking about Otego Oweh. Speaking of, I don't know if y'all realize this, but his introduction song was Lamont Butler. So I mean that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
Well, just let's elaborate a little bit more on Kentucky basketball before we shift gears to talk just a little bit of Kentucky football. Colton sent a message in. Kentucky has the hardest schedule, and I know we all know this, but we all saw this, and is ranked 9th in the AP poll. Cody, do you think that's probably about right, given that, this Kentucky team, although we are experienced, we are not experienced in the fact that we have not been together before, bringing back a couple of pieces here and there. But, I fully expect the team that we put out on the court to win us games are going to be people who have not played together much, which is what we done last year, and we found a way and we had a successful season. So do you think that, being ranked 9th is about right for this Kentucky team? And then I'm going to ask Mason the question about the schedule.
Yeah, no, I think that's about right. And I like that just because I think it keeps their expectations up there where they need to be, but it also maybe doesn't put us right on the spotlight of some other teams. Look, we talked about it last week. To me, the biggest question marks, one is what lineups is it going to play, but two, we don't have that proven star, right? We got a lot of guys that are experienced, but we're not bringing in we don't have a guy on the team that's averaged 20 points a game, right? We don't have a guy that's known for just like being a scoring threat. And I think that's where everyone's kind of like, all right, who do we have that's going to be that guy? Right. Florida has brought in some bigger players or they're returning some guys that really are, going to be top NBA draft picks. We're looking at this team again, like, who do we look on our team right now besides maybe Jaden Quinn when he returns as a top, like a first round draft pick, right?
Yeah.
We don't really look at that. And so I think that's probably about right, just because I think we have a lot of unproven Like, we have a lot of depth, guys that have played, but we have a lot of guys that aren't proven to be like stars or the go-to guys, and there's still a lot of question marks around it. So I like where we're at. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And I mean, at least it's a top 10. I feel like the
Yeah.
past couple of years we've been somewhere around 15 to 20, and have had to slowly build our way up. Mason, talking about the strength of schedule, I mean, when you look at Kentucky basketball schedule, I mean,
I had that
there's,
on here.
I mean,
It's not easy.
you got Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Indiana, St. John's, and that's just non-conference. That's not even getting into the SEC play with your Tennessees, your Bamas, Auburns,
Florida twice.
Florida. I mean, like
Yep.
it's every game matters in the sense of just where your placement is going to be as far as the NCAA tournament. Wanting to get guys connecting and feeling good because something as a player. I don't know if you felt this way, Mason, but starting off to the season, I enjoyed playing tough competition, but it also felt good to get a couple wins under your belt, headed
Absolutely.
in the right direction because I think that just for momentum's sakes and just trying to get the flow back into the flow of things. But when you're talking about this Kentucky team, there's a couple of games here and there. We got a couple scrimmages, but I mean, talk about like is this good for Kentucky? Is this going to be something, again, that we're going to have to it is what it is? But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's good to have a couple of games early on in the season, where you kind of find your legs. You've been going against the same guys in practice for, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. You haven't seen any different competition. So I think it's always good to get a couple of those games. That's what those exhibitions are for. And granted, we do play Purdue in an exhibition. It's just an exhibition, but I think that's a good idea. I really do. It's nothing that goes against your schedule. It's like a glorified scrimmage, right? You're going out there running against other teams, seeing how they react to some of your sets, seeing how their speed is compared to the guys on your team's speed. I think that's really good to do that. But like you said, Dylan, I mean, I think it's good for this team because Mark Pope talked about during his SEC Media Day and, Big Blue Madness and all these things. He talked about how competitive this team is. And he talked about, every drill that they do during practice, they keep up with a score. Whoever wins that, whatever team wins that drill or that scrimmage or whatever it is, they get a point. He said, they were watching film the other day and they put the overall points up on the board, and he said there was probably 5 minutes where the guys were kind of arguing and going back and forth about, is this actually correct? Who's lead? He said, every single one of them wants to win every single drill they do. And I think that's good. And I think that this strength of schedule for this team is good for them so that they kind of see where they're at. And, like Mark Pope said, they're competitive. I think they're going to come out and fight. But I think at the same time, this team and from what I've heard from Mark Pope and other guys, Oway, Jalen Lowe, all these guys, that talk to Big Blue Madness and SEC Media Day, their competitive drive and spirit that they have, I don't think that like some of the other young teams that we may have had in the past, I don't think that if we get beat in one of these early games, they're going to let that get them down, right? Destroy their confidence. I think that they're hungry enough that it's going to allow them to, okay, here's what we did wrong. Here's what we have to be better at because we don't like losing. And that's exciting to me hearing, from Pope how competitive these guys are, how hard they work, how much they want to win each and every day. So I think that's a good sign going forward. I think it's going to be a good test. I mean, 5 out of our first 11 games are against top 25 teams. So we'll have a good idea come, December before we get into conference play of where we're standing, how we look against the other top teams in the country. So I think it's good for us. And I think that, I don't know, one of y'all said it. I can't remember who said it. Maybe in one of our text messages, but it's kind of like right now, like this team is kind of like we want all the smoke, right? We don't care who you are.
Yeah.
We're going to come out. We're going to play hard. We're going to fight against you. We don't care. We want all the smoke.
Yeah, let's get it. Well, speaking right there, you said that you said we don't like losing. Well, Kentucky football is used to losing now, so let's kind of transition into that.
Yes, we
Colton,
are.
Kentucky football headlines. What we got?
Biggest headline
We
right now.
didn't lose this week. We
This
didn't
is
lose.
true. This is
That's
true.
that's the headline.
Me and Colin were talking about this the other day. I don't remember. We were texting about something. And dude, college teams get 2 buys now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same
They
thing.
do.
I literally
do
was
now.
thinking I did not know they got 2 buys.
I didn't either. Did they just feel sorry for us?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's probably they have certain. We got 6 buys.
Yeah, certain teams.
No,
You automatically get a win this week.
all right, Kentucky hosts Texas. Arch Manning coming to Lexington. I mean, that's kind of exciting though, right? When's the last time that, if ever? I mean, I don't know. Texas Longhorns is playing at the University of Kentucky, right? I mean, this one of the top college programs of all time in Texas is coming to Lexington. And really, you're looking at a Texas team that while they did get a big win over Oklahoma this weekend, finally they finally needed a win like that. They're not a powerhouse on offense right now, right? Our strength, if we do have anything, is normally has been our defense a little bit, and our ability to run the ball, which means you kill some clock at least a little bit. I don't expect us to win this game. I just know that I do think that we can keep it close at least through 2.5 quarters, maybe towards the end of the third quarter.
Maybe halftime.
I think we can listen. I think we can get into the last part of the third quarter and still be within like 10 points. Yeah, I really do. Unless Texas just finds their rhythm and goes crazy, I mean, their offense has just not looked real good. They just don't. And they may do it. I mean, everyone's.
But if there was ever a team to go into it and find a group, it would be a Kentucky football team, and I feel like that's going to hurt us
for sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't expect us to win, but other news though, I don't know if y'all saw rumors circulating about Mark Stoops and Virginia Tech.
Yep.
I don't know what to think about it. I'm sure. Look, he's turned down a lot of rumors. There's been rumors about him wanting to retire. They brought out that rumor thing about he went to Barnhart and told him that he'd take his buyout or take a less buyout, and then he came out and said that wasn't true. So this may have nothing to do with it. But I will say, everyone was like, "Oh, look, James Franklin got fired from Penn State, right?" And we'll talk about that. But they're talking about his buyout. Why can't we do that with Stoops? Look, James Franklin's is set up to pay out over time.
If we pay another job, Stoops, it takes off of that too.
And it takes off of it. Mark Stoops is, if he gets fired, like we owe him all of it right now. So there's a little bit of a different scenario going on here. People are just calling for him to be fired like Franklin, but we gotta push back just a little bit and figure out the money situation.
Yeah. Well, I have no comments about it. Mason, do you have any comments about the football?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a trap game for Texas, coming off a win against Oklahoma, their first real big win this season, coming into Lexington against a not so good Kentucky team. There's rumors circulating about their coach getting fired. We haven't looked good all year, but I'll tell you one thing: if there's one team in the country that can make Arch Manning look like the Heisman that he's supposed to be, it'll be us. He'll probably come out and throw for 350 yards and 6 touchdowns, and we'll get beat 42-10. But I think the biggest thing with Stoops is, this shows me so much with the kind of carousels and the drama we've had around coaches in the last few seasons. I don't know that it's so much. Yes, I think Stoops needs to go, but I also think Barnhart needs to go. I mean, the way that he structured some of this stuff and went about some of this stuff, lifetime contract for Cal. I don't care who you are. You don't give anybody a lifetime contract. I mean, the way things are changing so quickly in the college landscape, that's just dumb right there. And then you come on and you give Stoops all this money and it's guaranteed. And I don't know. I think we just need to look even harder at Mitch Barnhart because he, I've read a lot of stuff. He wasn't on board whenever NIL first came out. It took him a while to adapt. And that probably put us behind in football, basketball, all of our athletic programs. So
one more minute, Mason.
We need to go above all of this and look at the real person who's kind of caused some of these issues in the last 4 or 5 years.
No, that's a good take. I agree. and I don't think you'd find a lot of Kentucky people who would disagree with that. But let's get on to our next segment. So going off a little top of sports in as per se, but not really because it's all geared towards it. Just not specifically talking about anybody. The question that we have approached is: are coaches given enough time to succeed in today's time? And this goes hand in hand with with the firing of someone that we're going to get to. Colton's already mentioned James Franklin, talking about Mark Stoops possibly calling for him to be fired. There's multiple coaches. I mean, we could go Titans,
Brian
Callahan.
Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Titans.
just it's and the thing about it, it's unfortunate because it's going to happen every year in the NFL. There's a turnover. There's about 3 or 4 teams. Coaches get fired. It seems like every year. College basketball, college football, whatever sport it is. So I think it's not the question is getting fired okay. It's about the amount of time that coaches have because it just seems like in today's time it's a little bit less than it was that it used to be. So let's just start out. Mason, what are your thoughts on that? And then I'll give my little take and then we'll end with Colton. So just a little bit of what are your thoughts on are coaches given enough time to succeed?
I think it's kind of a loaded question. I think for me, my answer comes down to it. It all depends on what program you're going into and where that program was at before you got there, right? So, let's say Coach Cal, for example, right? It was great when he first got here. He had a couple years where he went through some droughts that he didn't do as well. And now you have Pope coming in and it's, can you live up to those lofty expectations that Cal set whenever he first got here? You look at Billy Napier from Florida, right? He came into a Florida program that hasn't really been back to its standards since Urban Meyer left. And I think with him, he's been given probably more time than he should have for Florida standards. But like last season, he had a rough start to the season. He finished the season strong. This year, not off to a great start. Then they have the big win over Texas. So I think it depends on the program that you're going into and where that program's at currently. Now, I will say, like James Franklin, for example, I think that he was given plenty of time. We went over stats on all that. But I really think that for the most part, I will say that coaches are given, I'm going to say they're given the adequate amount of time because I feel like that has to be set whenever you're coming in, right? Like, hey, we're hiring you for a reason. We're hiring you to get us back to this point. Here's the amount of time you have to do that. And if you don't get us to that point, or if it's not looking like it's going in the right direction, then that was your chance. That's it. And if they're agreeing to that, if they're coming in and saying, hey, I can build this program back up, I can set the culture, give me 2 years. And if I don't have it within 2 years, then fine, let me go. But I think for the most part, it's probably an adequate amount of time. You see some guys who are let go too early, some guys who have been there longer than they should have. But like I said, I think it's kind of a loaded question, but I'm gonna say that they're kind of given adequate time. I think they kind of balance out.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go the opposite way then. I'm going to say lean more towards the side. I think that you make a valid point, and I agree with everything you say. I just think that I would have to say that I feel like sometimes we jump the gun. And the reason why I say that is because I understand that head coaches have a responsibility. The wins they're responsible for. The loss they're responsible for. So everything falls back in the hands of the head coach. However, I don't I have a hard time with whenever a coach doesn't succeed and ultimately it's because they just don't have the talent there and they didn't have any control of that. Um I'll take Brian Callahan here for example. Uh Listen, I don't think the root of the problem is Brian Callahan with the Titans. I think the problem is they don't have no playmakers. They don't have anybody that they can get the ball to. Yes, we have Cam Ward, but it's his first year and it's his rookie season. Like this is his second year coaching. He had Will Levis before that, who was give or take. You never know. Like So, like, that's just a prime example of now, James Franklin is a good example of having plenty of time, but I think that he's a perfect example of, like, what are we doing? We're jumping the gun. Like, the guy's not even had time to get in there and actually build a roster and build a team to be successful. Now, I also understand, though, that yes, time is valuable and you can't wait and sit alone forever. But hey, guess what? Sometimes that's just part of it. I think of the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors were not just like boom, all of a sudden great. Okay, they slowly built a dynasty. Now, those first 3 or 4 years, yeah, like Draymond Green and Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, like they weren't like advancing to the or the Western Conference Finals and get it. It takes time, and it does. And I think that a lot of times I just feel like we push coaches out before they ever have opportunities to establish themselves. And then a lot of times what you'll see is the ones that you push out go to a school that gives them the right amount of time to be successful and build a school and program up, and then they are successful, and it's because they was given the adequate amount of time. So again, yeah, I think it's a loaded question, and you could look at it a lot of different ways. I just think in today's society, sports has changed so much, and I think this is one that it affects so much is because we just it's so hard as a head coach because you truly are not the one out there who's shooting the ball, who's throwing the pass. Although you are in control of running plays and all that, at the end of the day, you are putting a lot of trust into your players. But that's why it's so important for you to build and get the right players to fit your system. But I just think we jumped the gun. I do. What are your thoughts on it? Because it is a tough
Yeah.
topic.
I mean, I would say that we jumped the gun more than the other one, especially in today's time. And like this is my thing with Callahan is I don't think he's the root of the problem either. The only thing I will say though is that to me, like no one was expecting the Titans to be a playoff team. Like that's not the thing. Like you just had the number one pick, so you were obviously that bad last year. You're not going to go from the number one pick to a playoff team really most of the time. That's not going to happen. But like you fired Mike Vrabel, which is probably a big mistake. But what you have to do is you can't go backwards. And to me, I feel like we've gotten worse in every category since Mike Vrabel left, right? And I'm not saying it's all Callahan, but it is. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what the way I look at it is the Titans have gotten worse on defense. They've gotten worse on running the game, like the running the ball. I mean, even we saw Will Levis's stats, right? Were better than Cam Ward. So like things are regressing in every like category in every position, and so you just can't. You take right now Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterby, right? They're liable to save Brian Dabo's job as long as they should. Like I think the Giants are in a position right now where they don't have to make the playoffs. They just have to show that these two guys are going to improve the team this coming year, and then at the end of it, then they're thinking, okay, we're getting Neighbors back next year. Let's go get a few more guys. Now let's really take our chance. The Lions did the same thing. Look, Campbell started out bad, right? The Lions started out terrible. Then the Lions all of a sudden they came up one game short of the playoffs, and then they started out like 1-9 or something, and then won like 6 of their last 7 games or something like that. Crazy. Came up one game short of the playoffs, and next year all of a sudden they're like 13-3 or 13-4, and then here they are, one of the best teams, and they gave him time to really show improvement, but they showed improvement, right, compared to what the Lions were. I think that's the biggest thing. If you have a coach that can show improvement, then like most likely they're given the time. But there have been times when coaches are having constant success year in, year out, and then they get booted because they're wanting like championships. Right, you'll kind of see that with James Franklin. Like I think it's a weird, like him losing these 3 games. That's not what he's done. He hasn't been able to beat the big teams, but he hasn't lost to Northwestern, UCLA. Like he hasn't done that in his career. So he'll get picked up by a good job. Like he'll get a good school, and I think he's a good coach. He hasn't won the big games, but it's a mixture. Sometimes people they think the grass is greener because they see, oh, this is good, but we want championships, and then they go from being really good to not so. Instead of wanting great, and then all of a sudden not so good. I'm like you. We probably jump the gun more than we don't, but I mean, there's so many mixtures to it.
Yeah, I also think it's different, like professional, in NBA, NFL, all those things, because you have GMs, you have owners. You're not getting, the final call on a lot of these things like you do at a head coach in college. A lot of times the head coach, they're the public face that takes all the backlash and has to answer all the questions when a lot of times they're not the ones making the final decisions. They got to run it up the ladder to the GM and the owner and make sure they're okay with it. So,
like
and
AJ Brown getting traded, and Mike Vrabel obviously upset that it happened. Like the video of him just being so mad that they just traded AJ Brown away for us to draft Traylon Burks, who we just waived because he was terrible and injured. So, yeah.
yes.
So I mean, that's a prime example, right? Our coach there had really nothing to do with that, and it hurt the team.
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully we solve the issue there. Let us know though, guys. Our coaches given enough time or not. All right, let's get into some college football. So, I think we're going to do exactly how we done last week. I'm going to give a little rundown of 3 games, then you choose one to talk about. I feel like that's the most, it's the easiest and best way to go about this. So, starting off, I guess the biggest one of the season, because of just what happened, we've already talked a little bit about it, is Penn State. Penn State loses to Northwestern at home of a score of 22-21. Penn State then fires their head coach James Franklin after starting the season 3-3, following a home loss to Northwestern. They have lost back-to-back games where they were favored by 20 plus in both, and they were preseason ranked number 2. The buyout is massive. It's estimated around $49 million, making it one of the largest in college football. Another thing that occurred is Drew Aller, starting quarterback, got injured and is out for the season. So, it leaves the question for Penn State fans and, college football in general. Where does Penn State go from here? I feel like that's the biggest question. Then we go to the SEC, Texas. Texas finally gets its big win in the Red River rivalry. They upset number 6 Oklahoma of a score 23-6. Archie Manning was very efficient, going 21 for 27, 166 yards, 1 touchdown. Felt like he was game management, used it very well. I know Cohen's said a lot about that, about he can be, if he's going to be successful, he's got to be able to manage the game, and he did so, as they did hold or end up defeating Oklahoma. And then also the defense showed up pretty well, just holding them to 258 total yards. Texas improves 4-2. I guess the biggest question here is there still a chance? Is there still a chance that Texas can make the college football playoff and make a late run? And then we go over to the SEC big dog, Alabama. Alabama, number 6, wins on the road against a tough, undefeated Missouri team ranked number 16th. Beats them 27-24. I guess right now, in my opinion, just about went blank there. Not the MVP. The Heisman frontrunner, in my opinion, Ty Simpson, threw for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, including the go-ahead touchdown on 4th down conversion. His passing yards was 304. That's what he's averaging right now a game. He's Alabama right now is averaging 304 yards in the air, which is ranked 15th nationally, and then they're rushing 126 yards, which they really struggle against big opponents. And then the last thing I think for Alabama is Alabama's defense kind of looks back to old Alabama ways. They're starting to look stronger, kind of just beat up on you. But out of those 3 games, the Penn State, Northwestern, Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama and Missouri, which one are you looking at? And it's just like,
yeah, I'm gonna actually just dive in. You know what? I'll let y'all cover the SEC. I'm actually going to talk about the Penn State game, but I'm also going to do another game that we probably should have mentioned, Indiana going on the road and beating Oregon.
Oh, yes, that is a big
India
one.
moving up to number, like that's like Indiana, like we're talking about actual real contenders. Like they've
Yep.
got a quarterback who is now projected to be like a top 2 quarterback taken. That was a battle of what they thought at the times, but the way that some of the other guys had looked, that these 2 quarterbacks, you know, we're looking at maybe being the 1 and 2 like guys taken now. So, but anyhow, just real quick with Penn State, obviously just disappointing losses. Allard, I hate that he got injured like that. I mean, it's just, when it rains, it pours. He's not looked as good this year as what everyone thought. Coming in, he was going to be like a top 3 or 4 quarterback taken. There was high expectations for him and Penn State. He hadn't performed up to his level yet. Obviously, Penn State as a whole hasn't. They brought in Ohio State defensive coordinator, paid him the most expensive coordinator, $3.1 million a year. And the defense was not looking good either. So I mean, there's just a lot going on there. I think the players really loved Franklin, but for me going forward, I think you have to find a guy that. I think Franklin was a good culture builder. Like I think the team loved him, and I think that he'd come in at a time when like it was kind of in a mess a little bit at the end of Joe Paterno's tenure. There was some stuff going on there. So I think he really came in and calmed it down and rose it back up. But now I think you have to change styles, right? Because I think Penn State's the same thing over and over again. They get some guys that they think are pretty tough, but ultimately they get in these games and realize that they don't have the type of really true players that they need to compete with the Ohio States and the Alabamas so I think they have to change their style. Maybe they go to a more of a West Coast type offense where they're trying to outscore a lot of people. I think they need to go more towards that than just kind of being like, oh, we're going to be tough defensively. I'd like to see them bring in a coach that's going to be very high-powered offensive mindset. On the other hand, Indiana, big win against Oregon. I think that's one of the biggest wins of the year, really to go across the country, beat Oregon at their home stadium. With a guy that they thought might be the Heisman front runner and the guy that they had, the quarterback there. And so I think Indiana's legit. Last year I had my questions because they only played like Ohio State was the only good team they played before the playoff, and Ohio State beat them by 20 or 30 points. Well, now they've played some pretty good games so far. Look at the rest of their schedule; they're probably going to get to the Big Ten championship and be 12-0. Like that's legit. Like that. So I mean, obviously they won't see Ohio State until the Big Ten championship. But man, I'm going to give them. That's a tough win. I mean, it's tough to go to Oregon.
Mhm.
I mean, Ohio State
Yeah.
couldn't beat Oregon at Oregon last year. That's a
So
that's a big win.
So Colton, is Kurt Signetti, is he the real deal? And then also,
Yeah.
is he? Do you think there's a possibility of him going to Penn State?
Of him going to
That's
Penn
been on
State. I
the-
know that's getting I know that's getting thrown around a lot. I will say this. Obviously, Penn State is a much more prestigious job than Indiana. But I will say that Indiana has thrown a lot of NIL money in all of a sudden in the past year or so. Like they've been able to get some guys because they have invested. Of course, everyone kind of ragged on him because he made that comment about, look me up, I win wherever I go. And
He's
then they had
backing
the
it
big
up.
college game day. I was at it last year. I was at the Ohio State Indiana game when they were ranked 5th and come into Ohio State when they were ranked 1, and it was top 5 matchup. Ohio State dominated, and everyone was kind of ragging Signetti, saying like, you haven't played anyone, like it's easy to beat these teams. But obviously, Indiana's like a Kentucky, right? I mean,
Yep.
it'd be like the same as Kentucky all of a sudden becoming a top 3 team in the SEC. What he's done with Indiana in the Big Ten. I mean, and so it's hard to argue with him. I think they're going to call him. I would, for the Penn State job, I'd look for Matt Rule. Look at him at Nebraska. He went to
Yep.
Penn State, right? Former coach of the Carolina Panthers. He left college, Baylor,
Raiola's got another year.
go to the NFL.
Bring Raiola over.
Raiola's got another year, right? Yeah. So, I that's the name that I would watch for.
Yep.
Mason, what game sticks out to you?
So I think the game that sticks out to me is the Alabama Missouri game. We were We were talking over the weekend, watching that Georgia Auburn game. Georgia just didn't look great, how they have in the past few seasons. I think Alabama is the best team in the SEC right now. I said it when the season started. They were my prediction to win the SEC. But I think right now, with the way that everything looks, I think they're the only team in the SEC who can compete for a national championship right now. Not saying that might change by the end of the season, but they just, like you said, Dylan, their defense looks better. Kind of knew it coming in this year that their defense was going to kind of get back to their old self. And then you have Ty Simpson at quarterback. Knew he was going to be an improvement from Jalen Milroe. Milroe had the dual threat ability, but Simpson is able to keep the defense honest, right? He's able to throw those balls downfield with accuracy. He's able to hit those quick outs, those quick slants. He controls the game. He makes accurate passes.
Right. You look at the Alabama national championship teams, the ones that had Mac Jones,
exactly.
McElroy, right? Those type of guys are the ones that won the national championship, and Simpson looks like those guys.
Yep, exactly. So I think that's the biggest standout to me. Now they got a tough test this weekend. They got Tennessee at home, which it's at home, so that helps. And I think Tennessee's good. I just think their defense is not very good. So it's probably going to be a shootout. Probably be a fun game to watch. But we'll see. They do have a tough schedule left. They still got LSU. I think they have Oklahoma and then at Auburn, at South Carolina. But I mean, South Carolina's kind of on a downward spiral right now. So they got a tough schedule left, but right now that was the biggest standout to me. I just think Alabama is the best team in the SEC. It really, we're cheering for the SEC. I think they're a real shot at having somebody contend for a national championship this year.
Yeah, all that leaves for me is Texas. I'm not really going to talk a lot about Texas because we've already talked a little bit about that headed into for this week with Kentucky. One thing though, I do want to mention that it's sad as a Kentucky fan. Don't want to harp on Kentucky football again too much, but like when I was sitting there watching because I did watch a lot of it. When I was sitting there watching the Alabama Missouri, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, wow, Missouri is they're 4-0, 5-0, either one. It ranked 16. Like those were the teams we were beating whenever we were pretty good. And then it's like we have no chance now, almost in a sense. And then the Vanderbilts, everything has just completely took a 180. Like those were teams that when we look at we're looking at a schedule, like, okay, we're probably going to win this game. And now it's just like, well, we're probably not going to win this game. And it's just, it's the dynamic of, you talk about NIL and, just the transformation of just, some programs, we've got to find a way to get back to where people are looking at us the way that we're looking at other people. But anyways, let's get on to the next segment for this episode. We're going to take a break from sports. Interesting question here. Did people have more fun before social media? Take it wherever you want. Colt, we'll start with you. Did people have more fun before social media?
I think there was a lot less. I think they had more fun in different ways, right? I think it was just what you meant. I've never been a big fan of social media. Like I'm not a huge fan, but also it's hard for me to completely go against it because it's also what we're doing right now, right? I mean, we're recording this podcast and it's a form of social media, and we enjoy doing this, and it's allowed us to have this type of platform and reach others out there. And this is something I enjoy doing. But yeah, I mean, the days where, for fun, you had to go meet up with some friends and, go play pickup basketball, or, to kill some time on a Thursday night or instead of sitting in bed scrolling through TikTok or just doing on your phone or something like that. Or I mean, you take all the ones who are trying to be social media influencers now. I'd say, yeah, you did have more fun in a different way because you had to be creative, right? You had to think of a way to have more fun. You just didn't get so accustomed to what the world was kind of just throwing at you in a social media aspect. And so I would say I had more fun probably before social media. I've never been big on social media, so to me, it hasn't really changed. Like this is the most social media aspect that I've probably ever done. But overall, I'd say I definitely had more fun before social media than what I do now.
Yeah, I think this is a difficult question for me. I'm right there with you. You know, I see a lot of great and a lot of fun things that social media provides. Then also see, you know, the times were more simple. You know, times were slow, and you got to enjoy the moment. So I think of for like when I sit there, there's two things that I think of. The first thing that I think of when I saw this question, I was like, I don't know why, but this is exactly what I think about. Is the commercial, and but it wasn't a commercial, or it was a commercial, but it was made into a commercial for, something, but, the guy who is standing right behind Tiger Woods, and I don't know what tournament it was at, but everybody around them has their phones up, and they're watching this through their phones, and he's sitting here, and it was for an ad for something, but he's the only person who's just sitting there watching Tiger Woods, the GOAT, or the in discussion for the GOAT, talk to, and he's soaking it up right there and just enjoying that moment, taking it all in while everybody else has their phones up. And I take that in two ways because one, I say, okay, yeah, you can record this and you will always have this and you can go back and look at it. But then on the flip side of things, I look at this other guy who's just sitting there taking it all in and just enjoying what he's getting to witness. And you know, when I think about this, I think about that more so with my kids and you know, like my wife, like they're in my family. Like there's things that, you know, I can do on social media that allows me to go back and relive these moments. However, though, sometimes I feel like, you know, not necessarily speaking of myself here because I usually don't do this, but I see a lot of people as soon as they're doing something, they grab their phone out and they're trying to record it and they want to do all, and that's great. But you know, sometimes it's just live in the moment, be there with whoever it is, and I think that social media has staged an age where everything has to be recorded, everything, and you can get into even negativity stuff on this. You know, people, whenever any type of law enforcement gets involved now, I've seen plenty of videos where people automatically, first thing they get is they get their phone for social media for this to put out there. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Kona. I do think that it provides a lot of great things. But as far as, you know, like more fun, listen, it's hard for me to sit here and say what's better or what would be better than, you know, growing up playing travel ball or playing in interleague ball. As soon as you get done, going and playing on the playground and then going and having a barbecue, because like that's kind of the stuff, like we didn't exactly do it, but that's kind of what we kind of grew up in, not as much, but you know, talk about our parents for sure, like riding bikes up and down the street, being out on summer nights till it was dark and not having to worry, like those were the more simple times in life. And I think that that's something, you know, like today's kids, they just don't experience that type of life. The first thing they see at a young age is the phone, and it's just boom, it's right there in front of you. Um, but that's kind of my take on it. So yeah, I would say yeah, probably times were probably a little bit better before social media. Even though that's what we're doing right now. Mason, what about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna spend too long because y'all kind of said all the same things that I'm thinking. But for me, I think it's easy. I think it's absolutely, you know, people had more fun before social media. You know, y'all kind of harped on. I'm not a huge social media person. You know, I don't post a whole lot on social media. I pretty much use social media to stay informed on sports and you know the topics that I want to stay informed on. Right. Basically, it's a news outlet for sports is what I use social media for. Right. Keep up with my friends and family, things like that. But obviously, you know, we've talked about you know at younger ages. You know, you're talking about. I just think back to you know, like all ABA basketball, you know, all-star tournaments, you know, we'd have weekend long tournaments and after the games, you know, we'd all go outside and play or we'd go back to the hotel and, you know, swim in the pool and all hang out. Nowadays, we see kids, they're over there laying in the bleachers on their phone, you know, on TikTok, scrolling around, you know. And yes, it's great for capturing moments and being able to look back on that, have some nostalgia, you know, 5, 10 years down the road and relive some of those moments. But you know, y'all both said it, you know, live in the moment, be in the moment, experience those times, go out there, play with your friends, you know, don't be tracked on social media. So I think for me, it's an easy answer. I think, I look back at some of the stories that, my parents share, my uncles, growing up, all the neighborhood kids used to come over and they used to have, these walnut wars where they go around throwing walnuts at each other with garbage can lids. You don't see kids doing that anymore running around the neighborhood, throwing water balloons at cars, just different
It's very
kids being
creative.
kids, having fun, different things. So I definitely think that time was more fun, before social media.
Yeah, for sure. Me and Code Man, we could really TP a house, man. Whew, those were the times.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like everything we're
Yeah.
naming is just
Have,
a law
have
now.
y'all seen
I know,
have y'all
they're-
seen the video on TikTok of that dad who's ding dong ditching with his son? He like the kid ding dong ditches and the woman opens the door and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like,
Oh, I've seen a
"I'm
video.
sorry."
Yeah, I
She's like,
didn't
"Does
see
your
like
dad know you're doing this?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then you hear the dad yell from the background, "What are you doing?" He's like, "She called me." He said, "Run! Why are you standing there? Run!" He's gonna take off, ran down the street. I'm like, that's great.
that's gonna be Mason and Beckett. All right.
Absolutely. Beckett, what
Colton,
are you doing?
get us into our last one tonight for the NFL.
Oh yeah. So are we? So what do you want to get into first? My first takeaway, first off, from the week is obviously we talked about Brian Callahan getting fired. That's news for obviously me and Dylan are Titans fans. It's a tough season for the Titans. I just want to see Cam Ward improve the rest of the year. That's really all I want to see. He don't have a lot of weapons around him. I don't know how much better it's going to get. Just keep him not from being injured and just show some signs of improvement the rest of the way, and maybe find the right coach going forward.
Just do check down
Other
passes
than that,
all the whole
really,
game.
what I want to look at, you take to me, the Chiefs. I can't stand the Chiefs. I can't stand them, but man, they are just, it's inevitable, right? They're there. I mean, they just are. Right when you think the Chiefs are done, they go 0-2, then they go to 1-3, and they're facing another. They're facing the the last couple games. You're talking.
Ravens.
Then they have the Lions coming in. They had the Ravens, Lions, right? And you're just kind of like, oh man, like here we go. And like staring at obviously could be like a 1-5, and here they are 3-3. Their offense looks way better than they did last year. They're about to get Rashid Rice back, who will probably be their number one receiver now. So you had already an offense that's doing way better than last year. They didn't score 30 points but twice last year, the entire season. Now they're averaging 30. They've already done that. Their offense is better. So to me, like, it's the AFC is going to go through Arrowhead again. You just wait and watch. The other story to me, really, the Bills and Eagles. What do we feel about them? Like, do we? They started out 4-0. They both lost back-to-back games. Obviously, Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions. The Bills lost in the AFC Championship. Like, are we worried that
I think
maybe
the
they're not as
Bills, for
legit as we
me,
thought?
I think the Bills. And I thought they got away with it last year, but I have a feeling that they're starting to not get away with it this year. I think they're putting too much on Josh Allen. I feel like he doesn't have enough weapons around him. And I feel like they're just like,
Yeah.
okay, we got an elite quarterback. He's going to be able to dish it out to everybody and give, it's kind of like the Packers. Like at some point, the Packers might run into this. Like Mason has mentioned, they don't have that go-to receiver. That when you look at it, any teams that have been successful in the NFL, they have a go-to player to get the ball in the hands of. And I just don't think that that's what the Bills have. He tries to get it out and dish it out to everybody. And, yes, that's great. It makes the defense play, probably it keeps them in line. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a star. And I think that they're putting way too much on Josh Allen's hands. As far as the Eagles go, that's not what they have plenty of stars. And it may be an in-house situation there. I don't really quite know what's going on. Mason, what do you think about the Eagles? I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, we've said it over and over. Like Jalen Hurts. At some point it's going to come down to him being able to get out there and drive down the field, make the passes, make the throws, get it to the open receiver, and win you the game. And he, like I said, I think he's a great fit for their system, but he's not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. And I think we've kind of seen that. I think there's also, like you said, Dylan, I think there's probably some internal things going on right now. With AJ Brown and the passing game and different things like that. So I think that we've talked about it. I didn't see them repeating because of some of these issues that we're talking about right now. And I think if they want to be successful, they have to lean in 100% to that run game and just try to control the clock and control the game, right? You can hand it off to Saquon 50 times. You can hand it off to him 4 times in a row. You can get a first down almost every single time handing it off to that man. And then if they start putting 8, 9 in the box, whatever it is, then that's going to open up so much more. Just rely on your run game until somebody stops it. That I feel like maybe they're trying to keep people happy and trying to force some things right now, and that's kind of why we're seeing some of these slip ups the last couple of weeks. But you got to rely on what got you there, and it's the run game.
Yeah,
what do
no,
you think
y'all
about
are
it?
right. I'm with you. Just real quick. I mean, I'm the same way with you, Dylan, on the Bills. I think there's a talent deficit there around Josh Allen. They just don't have that go-to receiver or tight. Their next best playmaker is their running back, right? And you can only do so much from the running back position. And James Cook, they just don't have that go-to receiver, and they're facing some injuries on defense. I kind of feel like they're like the Lions in a lot of ways, right? The Lions have been just so good offensively the last few years, but when it comes down to it, they get way too many shootouts. Their defense can't
Yep.
get that stop, right? Like the Chiefs or the Eagles have defenses that have been able to get those stops when their offenses aren't performing, and the Bills and Lions don't seem to have that type of defense that when their offense is struggling, they can get the ball back to them. The Eagles, to me, they're not running the ball because Saquon, they're loading the box. I think teams are just committed to being like, hey, we're going to stop Saquon and put a spy on Jalen Hurts, and we're going to make him beat us passing. And I also think that when you get players like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, that once they finally win a Super Bowl, right? I think they lose that hunger of a team, right? Oh man, we want to go win another one. I think they're kind of then at like that point, like, okay, I've got my Super Bowl. Now I want to put up the stats and I want to get paid again. Well, that becomes internal issues. That's the difference in like teams like the Eagles and like the Patriots teams of the dynasties or the Chiefs, right? Year in, year out, they don't care. They know that Patrick Mahomes is going to lead them and whatever they got to do to like support him, and that's it. Right? I don't think that the teams are looking at Jalen Hurts like Blake. I don't think that AJ
No.
Brown, Devontae Smith's like looking. They're not looking at Jalen Hurts that way. Like,
They're
the
looking for
Patriots
new
are bringing
teams.
free
They're
agents
not
off the streets, and
looking.
they'd be like, whatever I can do to help. Right? They're not looking at,
Yep.
hey, whatever I can do to help Jalen Hurts, which is what every single receiver that comes into the Chiefs, every single receiver that came into the Patriots during Tom Brady's era, that's all they thought about is how can I help Tom Brady? How can I help Patrick Mahomes? They don't have that same attitude. I think it's hurting them.
Cone, do you have any pick'ems for us?
Yeah. All right. We got a lot of good games. A lot of good games, good college football weekend. Let's start out. Texas comes into Lexington, Kroger Field night game. And who do we think? Hey, first off, yeah, well, let's go ahead and get that pick 'em. Go ahead. Let's get the college football go. I
I'll
really
go.
think that the spread was 12 and a half. Let's pick against the spread. How about that?
Okay.
Or for that game,
Okay.
let's pick against the spread. I think we would all choose Texas, right? I think we're all going to choose Texas as money, like to win the game.
Yeah.
So let's do the spread. Does Kentucky cover the 12 and a half? What do y'all think?
No.
I'm going to say no, and I'm going to
Nope.
say it's going to be the last quarter. Like I may agree with you that they're probably going to keep it, but it's going to get to like that 10 points is going to stay there. It might be 7 points is going to stay there, and then towards the end, it's going to be like
And
it's
then
going to,
they'll score.
yeah.
I'm
So
gonna say yeah.
that's
I'm
what
gonna
I
say
got.
they cover. I really am.
All
I'm gonna say
right.
they cover. Okay, just straight out win. Another one, Miami and Louisville. You know, I can't remember if it's at Miami or at Louisville, but if it's at Louisville, I mean
At Louisville.
I feel like that's an upset, and it's gonna be that's a true test for Miami coming in here. What do we think? I don't know what the spread is on that game. We don't have to take the spread on all of them, but that's another good one. Like I think Miami is legit. I think they're very well rounded.
No, it's at
I haven't
Miami.
got to watch a lot of Louisville. Oh, is that Miami?
Oh, it's at Miami.
Yeah, give me
Miami
the U.
by 2+ touchdowns. Yeah, Miami by 2+
Oh yeah, I'm the U.
touchdowns.
They're, no, yeah. What? Yeah, I don't know what the spread is on that game. I'd say it's probably like 8 or something.
I
Probably
could
8
be
or
wrong
something.
about
Very good
this,
guess.
But
I don't know if y'all remember me telling you all this year or earlier this year, but Miami has still not left the state of Florida to play a football game. They don't leave the state of Florida until November 1st, until they play SMU.
yeah, that's insane.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's
I'm pretty sure.
crazy. They've had
Look at
home
the
games
schedule
and
if
their
you've
other games
got
have
it,
been
Mason.
against. They played.
They played
They're
Florida
played
State.
favored by 13.5 right now.
Are you looking at their
13.5?
schedule, Mason?
Yeah, I am.
I'm like positive
let's
I saw
see.
that
So they
somewhere that they don't leave.
Notre Dame at home, South Florida at home, Florida at home, at Florida State, Louisville at home, Stanford at home, at SMU, Syracuse at home, North
Yeah.
Carolina State at home, at Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh. So they only have like 3 or 4
I mean,
road
could you?
games this
I
year.
mean,
That's
yeah.
I mean, that's a benefit. So, but I'm going
give
with the
me
U
a-
on at Miami.
Yeah, me
Me
too.
too.
Everyone with the U.
They real.
Yeah. All right, another good one here. This is one that I really think is an upset watch. LSU comes to Vanderbilt. What are we thinking here? I mean, I don't know what the spread is. I would say maybe LSU's maybe like a 3-point favorite, probably. I would say it's probably 3.5, something like that. If I had to guess, that's usually how those type of games go. Man,
I'll kind of start this
honest with
one
you,
off here.
give me Vandy. Give me Vandy.
I like
I'm
it.
going to go with them. I really do. I was
Spread,
bigger on
Vandy's favorite.
LSU. Vandy's
Vandy's favorite
favored
by 2.5. 2.5.
Wow.
I think
I'm going to go
I
with
think
Vandy.
LSU. Yeah, I agree. I think LSU's defense is really good, but everybody's talking about their offense to start this season, how good it was supposed to be. You got Nussmeier coming back, you got the wide receivers out on the edge, you got the running back. It's supposed to be so good, and they just haven't lived up to the hype on the offensive end. And I think that Vandy, they came off a tough loss against Bama, and I think it's at home. What's his name? Clark Lee, is that their coach's name? Something
Yeah.
Lee, I think. But
Yeah,
I think he's got that program headed in the right direction. Great culture builder. I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm going on Vandy as well.
I want to keep it real simple.
All right,
Give me the Tigers. I called them early. When I think I called them to beat Clemson the first game of the year. You two went against
Clemson.
me. Y'all two going against me again. Give me the Tigers.
LSU. All right, that's fair. All right, Ole Miss at Georgia. Give me the Dogs. Give me the Dogs. I'm not sold on Ole Miss. Look, they were 32.5-point favorites against Washington State, won by 3. They truthfully they haven't played great. LSU at home is their best competition, and I don't think LSU is as good. I'm like Nathan. I just don't think the offense is there. So I think that's why Ole Miss was there. No, give me the Dogs. I'm all in.
I'm going Dogs.
What y'all think?
I mean, I'm not sold on Ole Miss either. Too. I think that we honestly could have beat Ole Miss.
Yep. All right, I got 2 more games for you. You got Notre Dame at USC, or USC at Notre Dame. It's one of the two. I can't remember which one it is, but USC and Notre Dame play a rivalry, game. Both of them ranked, I think, 20th and 13th. USC showed, they beat beat up on Michigan pretty good. Notre Dame can afford another loss if they want to make the college football playoff. I'm going to go Notre Dame. I think there's a sense of urgency there. I think they've started to play better the last couple of weeks. I think Carr's developing more. Give me the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I'm going Fighting
Good
Irish
deal.
too. Don't know much about USC, but I just really like Notre Dame's coach, Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach, and like you said, backs against the wall, can't afford to lose another game. So yeah, go Irish.
I'm going Notre Dame as well. It's at Notre Dame. USC just came off. Who'd they just beat? I just went blank last week.
Michigan.
Decent. Michigan. Yeah, Michigan. They just came off of a big win against Michigan. So yeah, I'm right with Notre Dame.
All right, final one. Tennessee travels to Alabama. Man, Tennessee's kind of had Bama's
Roll Tide.
number a little bit the last couple of years, but Roll Tide. Give me Alabama at home. I think Alabama's offense now is good enough to keep up with Tennessee's offense, but I think their defense, is improving to the point that Tennessee's offense won't go as crazy as they can on them, but Alabama's offense can go really crazy on Tennessee's defense. So I'm taking Roll Tide.
Yeah, the spread right
JT.
now is Alabama at 8.5, and I think they cover easy. I do. I think Alabama didn't know a lot about them when Mason was early in the season, very high on them, but it was a good take. I think Alabama is the real deal. Got the quarterback, their defense is there, their run game is okay. I just think that they have the recipe
And they've got other good
win
receivers
big.
besides Ryan Williams. Like that's to me that's what they've got last name is
Jeremy
Bernard or Gerard. I can't Bernard or something like Bernard.
Bernard.
Yeah, like they have some guys that are like you were just thinking Ryan Williams, but they've got some other studs now too. So yeah, a lot of weapons. But all right, there's our pick'ems. We'll see how it is. Oh,
Mason, did you pick who you
final
got?
one. Kentucky. Well, that's next Friday. We'll worry about it next Friday. Next week we'll start picking with Kentucky basketball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think there's a little baby lag going on between me and you two. I don't know. But
yeah.
Appreciate everybody listening. As always, go Cats.
Go Cats.
That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.